Hello, you beautiful people, and welcome back to Ball Watching, an official Nashville SC preview as we head to Nashville to take on the, I think, currently number 2 best team in the MLS right now. So, going to be an exciting one this weekend. Definitely going to be probably the match of the match day for the MLS for any of the casual fans tuning in. But before we get into anything, Justin, how are we feeling today? This is a Tuesday recording. We had to shift some things around to make sure we got this done for you all, but we can't miss this preview. It's going to be hype. Justin, where are we headed to?
Heading to Scottsdale tomorrow for a bachelor party, and then that is the end of my trips for a bit. So we will get back to our regularly scheduled programming here soon. So I apologize for throwing everybody off, but appreciate Jake working through it with me.
Absolutely. And we are also, Justin, working together with a exciting sponsor of today's episode, Soul Juice. And this is Soul Juice. Soul as in the city of Seoul, not S-O-U-L. It's S-E-O-U-L, Soul Juice. And Soul Juice is a sponsor of today's episode, like we mentioned. And it was started by a former SLU grad and soccer player and your teammate, Justin, Luis Manta, who lived on our floor as well freshman year. So we know Luis really well. Soul Juice is a drink, obviously. It's in a juice that's really packed with electrolytes and has a ton of potassium, just as much as a banana, I've heard. So an awesome, healthy, kind of like replacement sports drink to get away from some of the food colors and the dyes and the fake crap that lives in your Gatorades and your Powerades. So I was just drinking it right here. It's pretty phenomenal, Just. I know you like yours as well.
I've had it for a while now. Luis has been working his butt off to get this off the ground, and I love him for it. So it's one of those things, and it's a great story. We'll get some posts up and stuff later. But when you go to their page, you'll see that Luis, when we were playing at SLU, actually became allergic and had a really bad reaction to red dye and Gatorade. So he was kind of making this out of his dorm room just because it's just 3 ingredients of Korean pear, water, and lemon. So it's just one of those things that he just started making on his own and then just completely took off with it and has been doing a great job out in LA. Now he's starting to being able to ship all over the US and actually has a couple in store in St. Louis now at Dierberg's.
Yeah, Dierberg's has actually re-upped, he just told me, on their order. So you can go cop yours at Dierberg's. They just have this as the product right now. So it's just Soul Juice. There's only just one flavor. If I had to kind of put my finger on what it tastes like, and you can let me know what you think, Justin, but they even have it on here, and I think it's totally spot on. It's like a lighter or a less kind of sugary apple juice. So the flavor is there. It's kind of like Hint, if you've ever had Hint, where the taste is there. It's just more refreshing than anything. And obviously a ton less sugar. It's only 3 ingredients. So you kind of know what you're putting in your body, which is never a bad thing. And
it's all natural. That's the best part about it. And I will say it is extremely fresh and refreshing. I would say you can use it for after sports drinks. I also use it on Sunday mornings a lot. And that's one thing that he's alluded to as well. So it's okay that we can push it towards that. It's electrolytes. It gets you back into the game. So regardless of whatever your game is. So one thing that we can give out to you guys all, you can use the code BALLWATCHING for 20% off at www.souljuice.com. That's SEOULJUICE.com. Use the code BALLWATCHING, get 20% off. You can go to Dierberg's and cop them there as well. So get out there and try it. It's awesome.
Yeah, go to the website. You can type in your zip code and check out where they're being sold near you. But Dierberg's is the most recent one and definitely probably one that you all recognize. But yeah, if you want to go online, you want to get a discount, use our code BALLWATCHING at checkout at souljuice.com. We love it, Justin. You know, I wouldn't do an ad for just a friend and someone if it wasn't actually pretty good. And it is really, really solid. So I've been enjoying myself on these.
Yeah, we've had a couple of these people reach out for ads and definitely don't accept them all, but this is one that I am very happy to do. And shout out to Luis again. He's been working so hard on this, and his boy Roman Vassal's helping him out there too.
Absolutely.
Jake knows Rome as well. So a couple of the SLU guys getting together and doing a business. So support them.
For sure. If there's one thing St. Louis does well, it's support their own. So support your own here. Buy from Soul Juice. It's an incredible drink, very refreshing. And with that, thank you, Luis, for sponsoring this episode, Soul Juice. So Justin, we are now 2 days post-mortem on the Galaxy game. And I am going to call this a post-mortem because I feel like this was one that just felt really bitter and kind of like a loss. But I kind of wrapped up a couple of themes that I took away from this game. And the 3 things that I wanted to get to, and we can talk about each of them, is one, that we definitely lacked that lethal finishing or that clinical touch that we've talked about a lot during the season being very strong at. We also had that leaky late game defense, which we've talked about tons of times this season as well. And that ties just suck. It felt like 2 points lost, not 1 point earned. The boys from LA went back home like, ooh, we got a point against St. Louis. This team has had a hot start to the season. So those are my 3 things to kind of take away to start.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I'll touch on the first one because I know we mentioned it a little bit in our recap that we had some technical difficulties. So we apologize again for that. But for anybody who was able to listen to it and get through it, we did have a season high of 22 shots. But it's just, even with that many shots, we ended up only having 6 on goal. And you have a note here that the exception of Nico, who made the most of his chances, despite only a 0.08 XG for having that. I mean, that flick was just absolutely incredible. But we can't just be taking shots willy-nilly and just barely getting them on net. We need to create better chances than what we did.
Yep. We created 3 big chances throughout the game. You probably think about a couple of those. Like one of them was that incredible ball from Alm to Stroud that he just missed hit. Mm-hmm. All 3 of those big chances we created were missed, which I think maybe one of the first times this season where it's been like that for us. Going into the defense part of it, I always harp on this, I feel like, but we almost had enough. We got into the mid 80s before conceding here, but that late defensive mistake, they put the press on Nerwinski and coughed up the ball, and we get caught going the other way, and they're able to tie this up at 1-1. We can't get caught cheap in possession like that, especially so late in the game. I know Carnell alluded to this after the game, saying he trusts Jake to make those right decisions and know what's best. But I think, everyone probably would have pointed to, let's just clear lines when it's that late in the game. We don't need to connect any passes or make anything look pretty. Let's just salvage this 3 points, because how incredible it would have been to have those 4-game homestand. I'm taking the Dallas part out of it. 4-game homestand and ripping 12 points off that would have been a dream. I mean, you and I talked about being happy with 7, 9, 8, but 12 would have been an absolute, and it was really within our grasp. That was the unfortunate part.
And it was, and you already mentioned it. It felt more like a loss. We did lose 2 points there, especially against such a low team like LA. And looking at the standings right now, Jake, so we are technically in sole possession of 4th with 29 points behind New England and Philly, who both have 30. So if we would have got that dub, we would have been in a sole 3rd possession behind Nashville and Cincy with 31 points. It's just something you really want to work towards as you work towards the top. And it hopefully doesn't bite us in the butt later on the season, knock on wood, because you can't be giving up these late games and these points like that.
Yeah, I think leaving it here, I think good teams, and when I say good teams, like good teams, great teams, go on and win that game. When they don't have their best stuff, they're not finishing like they should be on that day, they find a way to win those games. And it might be ugly, but you walk away with 3 points and you say, that was ugly, but we can show we can win with that type of atmosphere and that type of environment going on around us. So I think we'll be able to get through that at some point this season, and definitely in our tenure as a club here, but definitely a moment there where we want to be able to show a little more experience, a little more confidence towards the end of the games. I will say Parker got some flowers from the MLS. He was on the team of the match day, featured on the bench for this one. And I think that just goes back to us talking about the center back pairing, Parker and Bartlett. Oh, I almost called him Barker. That could be a little bit of a like a celebrity power couple thing, or let's think Partlet.
We don't do this.
So he had a great game, and I totally agree with that. I did not expect to see him on the team of the match day, but I think deserved. The man was very, very strong out there, and I mean strong when I say strong, because he was bodying these forwards, and he had a couple times, Justin, you and I were pointing each other and laughing when he meets shoulder to shoulder with a forward or a winger. That person bounces off him just like rubber. He is made of steel. So people just go flying when they meet him physically. So it's pretty funny, but kudos to him. Otherwise, the team maintained our 5th spot in the MLS power rankings and dropped slightly in ESPN from 5 to 7. So either way, people are putting some respect on the club. And I think so far, we're basically at the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, we are. We are technically 1 game away since we've only played 16 so far. But Joe Lowry, MLS writer, said we are the most surprising team of the season. Shocking, not surprised there. But his specific quote was, "It was a no doubter. I'm happy to admit it. If you told me before the season that St. Louis City SC would be top of the Western Conference at a halfway point in the regular season, I would genuinely not have believed you." I mean, we've been on a couple of these before the season, Jake. We talked. Our hope was to be pushing for a playoff spot, and a lot of these other guys. I mean, I'm sure this is plastered everywhere within the city walls, St. Louis City SC walls, that we were projected to get last in the Western Conference just by about every expert. So it's one of those things that is really good to see, and happy to hang our hat on it, but we're far from done.
Yeah, not happy with just that, but very happy with how it's gone so far. you and I would be in the same boat. I'm not going to say that we said pushing for a playoff spot. I'm thinking like the expanded playoffs are really going to help us, and maybe we'll be that 9th seed going into it. But now we're sitting first in the Western Conference. It's silly.
There was one of those episodes I said cup or bust, and I was joking at first, and I still
had the foresight. The foresight. And the last thing you'll say is Joe also went on to kind of describe like why we've been successful, and I liked what he said. He said we have that clear and effective style of play under Carnell. We've identified and added depth at significant value, in my opinion, and then we've also all of our DP are bigger signings, even like a Berkey who's not DP but a TAM signing. Have really hit the ground running. Leuven specifically, he had some stats in here. Leuven's 97th percentile in shot creating actions. You might see as SCA per 90 among midfielders this year. So he's generating a lot of chances. Then he's 90th percentile or higher in progressive passes and carries. Our team as a whole doesn't do much of that, but him as an individual does a lot of that for us. So we rely so much on him, and I think it'll be interesting to see, just for a case study, we have so much momentum going from this first half of the season. I'm saying the half of the season because if you look at the broader MLS, it's match day 19 this weekend. So it is the official halfway point of the general season. But for us, we've a game or two in hand. So it'll be weird to see if we can try to carry that momentum into the second half. But you have to be elated with how this first half has gone for us. I would have laughed if you had told me that we'd been sitting on top of the Western Conference. It had been, but I'm happy. I'm laughing now.
And dude, we've been able to do it without a full healthy lineup, which is something that I don't think a lot of the beat writers and people that see, they don't pay attention to the games, that we're usually missing one or two main guys every time. And then if you include Nielsen, who has yet to play a game, it's been that way for a while. And then Klaus has been out for what feels like 10 weeks now.
Yeah.
Probably are around there.
Yeah.
But in other news, CONCACAF Nations League is the U.S. versus Mexico game is this Thursday, 6:15 at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, where the Raiders play at 9 p.m. on Paramount Plus. We don't have a whole lot of games against Mexico coming up because we don't need to qualify for the World Cup, and neither do they. We are trying to defend our title from a 3-2 win in extra time when Pulisic buried a PK. And we also have the Gold Cup coming up. And the U.S. will be taken on at City Park on June 28th. I will say, Jake, the one thing I was a little disappointed on, this Mexico game is going to have all the main guys. At least I can tell from the pictures. We don't know lineups for sure yet. The game at City Park, they came out with a Gold Cup roster. Not your Pulisic, not your Weston McKennie, not your Musa, not your Gio Reyna, not your Balogun. It's going to be a weirder one. There's still Matt Turner on the team, and we're going to have like DeAndre Yedlin and a bunch of more MLS guys like Jesus Ferreira. So it'll still be a great game to watch. And I think I saw last night, I sent you that tweet. Who got Nicaragua? Did they cheat? And they got knocked out. So now Trinidad and Tobago plays Jamaica before us that night at City Park. So you get a doubleheader. Yeah,
we do get a doubleheader. That'll be really fun. And despite the roster, it'll still be fun because it means so much to these guys too, because they're kind of fringe guys on like looking in on the outside. So these minutes with the national team mean everything to them. And we're going to take it seriously. And we won the Gold Cup last time, so we're defending champions. That we defeated Mexico. We kind of have Mexico's number. We have not lost to them since 2019. We're looking to extend that streak to a 6-game unbeaten streak, extending back to 2019 when we take them on Thursday in the Nations League semifinal. And it's likely going to see a debut for Balogun, like you mentioned, who's a 21-year-old striker from Reims in France, owned by Arsenal right now, probably on the move this summer, who netted 21 goals, which is absurd. So happy to have him here. And the winner will advance to face either Canada or Panama on Sunday in the final. So it's a quick turnaround here, Justin. So 2 games in quick succession. I would love to see a U.S.-Canada final. I wish it was Mexico, but it's not. Either way, the winner will play on Sunday. The loser also plays on Sunday in a third-place matchup. Let's hope that's not us. So that's the news for the U.S. We'll be watching. Unfortunately, it's at 9 p.m. Central, which just blows. But it is on Paramount Plus if you're trying to watch it. It's going to be our full, probably biggest squad, most serious squad since the World Cup, and the biggest game for these guys since then. So it's going to be exciting. Good times.
Yeah, I was trying to look up some betting lines. We'll get more. Let's do that with the Hammers.
Yep, let's do it.
Lines. I know we didn't really prepare for it, but I do think a quick one. They have Balogun to be the highest ranked scorer. Also, team props though. Us over 1.5 goals plus 140. Just something to look at. We'll get into it. We'll touch them all later.
Yeah, we'll do some live. Let's get into Nashville. Let's get into Gateway and Honky Tonk meeting for the first time ever here. We've got Nashville, a team that was in our shoes, rather recently. They began play in 2020. They were a continuation of a USL team of the same name. In just 3 seasons, they've been pretty successful. They've kind of established themselves as pretty regular challengers. though not making it the furthest. They have made the playoffs all 3 seasons, but I think they've only gone as far as the quarterfinals, and that was in season 1 and 2. They got knocked out last year in round 1. But cool note for Nashville, they've got 2 prominent St. Louisans, 2 of which I know we'd be happy to have here at City, but 2 who have had incredible seasons and kind of on very different age spans. And I'll just name them, Justin. We'll talk about them. But Joe Willis is their goalie, their starting goalie, trained by TK. We had TK in the pod. He waxed lyrical about Joe. And Jack Mayer, who's a center back for them. And he starts alongside Walker Zimmerman, who we know is a big deal and the big U.S. men's national team guy. So those 2 are focal points, and they're St. Louisans.
And Jack Mayer was on STLFC as well. He went to IU. Unfortunately, we have a little bit of a pipeline there just through the history of the guys in the past couple of years. But it's good to see both of them. And they do get a lot of minutes, like you said. So definitely one to keep an eye on. And as we kind of keep moving into Nashville, you mentioned on there in 2022, they played in the Western Conference last year, but then got bumped to the Eastern since we joined this year. They had 13 wins, 10 losses, 11 draws, knocked out by the LA Galaxy in the playoffs. 52 goals for 41 events, so goal differential of plus 11, which is pretty solid. No difference home and away, so just a solid squad all the way around. And they're doing really well this year, even better than last year, with 32 points of 9 wins, 3 losses, and 5 draws in second in the Eastern Conference so far through 17 games. 25 goals for, 12 against, so great goal differential again. Home and away, pretty consistent still. 6 wins at home, 1 loss, 2 draws. Away, they have 3 wins, 2 losses, 3 draws, so a little bit worse on the road, but doesn't mean that they can't take an L at home.
Strong team. If Cincy wasn't just blowing everyone out of the water besides us this season, this would be a remarkable season they're mounting together. It's just kind of overshadowed by what Cincy, who's of course like their next door neighbor, is doing. So some key results for them. I just took down some of the top teams that they've taken on as of recently. They took on the Revs earlier on in the season. They lost 1-0. It was pretty harsh on Nashville. I think they probably deserved more in that. New England did find a ton of chances, though, especially on crosses, and it took a really, really great goal to beat Joe Willis to win that game for the Revs. They took on Cincy. Roman Celentano, Cincy's goalie, had a hell of a game. So did Willis. It was kind of a goalkeeper battle, and it ended up coming down to Acosta, who's Cincy's beast of a number 10, to kind of find a moment of brilliance and generate a chance for a goal. They tied LAFC 1-1. Denny Bouanga just wreaked havoc on their defense, he's a stud, having an excellent MVP-like season as well. And Nashville was able to score, though, and equalize on a scrappy chance in a box. Mukhtar is a stud. We won't get into Mukhtar of it all, but I feel like to beat and play with Nashville, you have to have your stars shining the brightest, because I look at all these highlights, and that's what was going for them. Fortunately, their most recent result was a tie against one of the worst teams they've played this season, and that was Toronto. They tied 1-1. Toronto's Insigne had a lovely goal, lovely curler, and that was after Nashville had conceded possession. And they really, Toronto just kind of tried to bat down the hatches and defend for as long as they could until Nashville finally broke through on a howler of a goal right through Sean Johnson's hands, Toronto's goalkeeper. And so, Nashville, even without their best stuff, was able to find a point away. So they're a good team, obviously, but coming off of a result that you'd expect them to get more out of.
Right. And then just before that, they were at Dallas and just beat them 2-1. So they're coming off a two-game road streak, happy to be coming back home, which is going to be tough for us in an atmosphere that is pretty good down there in the honky-tonk, as you say, Jake. And a couple of the key players to watch. I'll let you take the first guy, since you already mentioned it.
Hani Mukhtar is a stud. He's 28. He's kind of their central advanced or attacking midfielder, kind of plays as a second striker, and sometimes even center forward. He's 28 years old. He's German. He's got a value of almost $12 million right now. He won the MVP last year, 23 goals and 7 assists, which is absurd. And he's won championships in Denmark, in Portugal, and in Austria prior to joining Nashville for $2 million just 3 years ago. So they have a steal on their hands. And this year he's lighted up 10 goals, 6 assists already, leading the MVP conversations, tied for Golden Boot. He leads Nashville in every offensive stat. And I just watching their highlights in their games, everything runs through him. He can win games on his own.
Yeah, he's going to be an extremely impressive guy to watch. And then when you look back on their defense as well, a mainstay name that we've really gotten used to watching the U.S. men's national team, Walker Zimmerman, 30-year-old American. If you remember him from watching the World Cup, he was the other ponytail. That was not the guy, Tim Ream from St. Louis. Drafted by FC Dallas, then to LAFC, then came to Nashville. 229 total MLS appearances, 40 caps for the U.S. men's national team, starting center back into Qatar, as we already mentioned, for the World Cup. and will be coming off of the Nations League semifinal on Thursday against Mexico. So what do you think that'll do, Jake? If he is the captain and leader of their team, leads them in blocks, fourth highest rated player, obviously one of their biggest guys, like coming off of the game, which I'm assuming he will probably start.
I don't think he's going to start. I think they're going to start Chris Richards, who would have gone to Qatar had he not been hurt, and Miles Robinson, who also would have gone to Qatar had he not been hurt. So I think that's who they're going to go with. But I could see if they're getting into crunch time and they need some more defense, they could bring him on. I don't see him playing a full 90 with the national team.
Yeah, if he does start though, I mean that's a 9 p.m. game here, but also in Vegas, which is going to be a little bit more of a travel time for him. That'd be a quick turnaround.
I think he's gone. I mean, think about it. The next game's on Sunday. He's gone. He's not going to play, right? I mean, even if he loses,
you're right. Even if he loses, I forgot that you're not done.
He's not coming. So there was no other Nashville guys on that roster. Yeah, but probably won't see Walk. But we will see Daniel Lovitz, who's a left back for them. He's 31-year-old American. He's got a lot of MLS apps, 220 under his name, a couple of appearances for the U.S. men's national team as well, 3 assists this season. He's the second highest rated player. When you're looking at these, I'm trying to find who has been their impact players. And it's so hard because Mukhtar literally pops up everywhere when you're looking at their stats. But otherwise, they have Shaq Moore, who's an honorable mention for them. He went to the World Cup with us. Did get on the field, I'm pretty sure. He was a right back.
He did. I remember texting you guys. I'm like, what are we doing more in the World Cup? Nothing against him. I mean, great player, but just from the options that we had.
And they have Dax McCarty, who is an MLS journeyman. This dude has 450 appearances in the MLS, starting back to 06 and 13 for the U.S. men's national team. So you'll see both of those people as well. So for anyone watching this on YouTube, while you're watching it, take 2 seconds and throw us a like down below and subscribe so you know whenever we're going live here. And if you're just listening on the podcast, no problem. Leave us a review. Leave us a rating. Be honest with us. We'd love to hear your feedback and see how you're enjoying this and what we could do differently. We're pretty responsive to that type of stuff. But getting into style, Justin, the team is coached by Gary Smith. What a name. He's an Englishman. Has experience coaching in a couple leagues with League One in England, USL here, and MLS as well. He coached in Colorado for a couple years with a 36% win rate. We do have win rate clarified now, and I wrote a note so I didn't butcher this, Justin, but win rate note. I changed this one up so we could actually get this across too. So if someone has a win rate, that's just wins over total games coached. The reason we were going back and forth on it is that it kind of overlooks draws, which you also get points from. So if you want to make like a win plus draw rate, he would have a 77% win plus draw rate, meaning that he gets points 3 out of every 4 matches, which is pretty impressive. And that goes to show what he's been doing pretty well at Nashville so far. And he's got some interesting tactics.
Yeah, he does. And thank you for clarifying the math there. I was not ready to get back into that one. So this is some very weird lineups. He plays a 4-1-2-1-2, which is very narrow, which I would appreciate. Then we can let Johnny and Stroud and let those guys get loose, or a 4-3-1-2. That's a little bit more typical. It's still a little odd to have 2 up front, I would say, with that style. But for this season specifically, basically does the same thing with Mukhtar, playing behind 2 strikers with Mayer and Zim. Holding up the line. So it's one of those things that I would love to see them try to go a little bit more narrow and kind of attack through the middle, which especially I was about to say, because they're not going to get through Blum and Leuven, but we won't have Blum. We'll touch on that.
Yep.
Likes to keep his team compact, and they're pretty tough to break down. Obviously, if you are that centralized, relying on speed and precision on the break to carve out attacking opportunities, and can be pretty reliant on Mukhtar. You already said that when we were doing some research and trying to look into stats. This man is just all over the field. So they do have some long balls and crosses, so they try to use the width where they can get wide, which is mostly down the left, but still play pretty central.
Yeah. So Nashville, a team with offensive and defensive prowess. They're unbeaten in their last 5 at home, 1 draw, 4 wins in a row. Currently second sitting in the MLS power rankings, which is impressive. I'd say their strengths, when you're looking at them as a whole, counterattacks. This team isn't going to build up beautifully consistently, but they're going to make it hurt when they can take the ball off you. They're really great with set pieces. Obviously, Walker Zimmerman is a man among boys on the MLS field, attack and defense. He's very, very dangerous. They can finish. Mukhtar is lethal, and they can also protect leads and just close up shop when they're able to get up top. So offensively, the team sits about average in XG, generating 1.4 per 90, and they average just about the same at 1.47 goals for per game, which is in the top 10. So a pretty astute offense. They're a little better at home. They have a 1.66 XG at home. They've put in 16 goals so far at home, but they kind of come from, different times. 24% of them, so about 1 in every 4, come from the 31st to 40th minute, and a lot of them come at the end, which scares the living out of me, man. Oh,
especially going to be playing on an away game with that atmosphere without Blum. We'll see what Bradley Carnell can try to do with some subs. But they, like you said, offensively, they score about 51 minutes for a goal at home. 12 of their 13 goals at home, they're inside of the 18. Not surprising. That's the majority of MLS. 46% possession at home. I would like to see that a little bit higher, especially with our style, but they average 13.5 shots at home versus 8.5 away. I would say we're probably around the same, maybe a little bit higher than that. Second in goals, following a rebound, and first in goals following a foul. So looking at trying to do some trash goals with some cleanup and or some set pieces. So something that we definitely need to be a little bit more attuned to, because I think that has also been some of our weaknesses.
It is. Yeah, they don't progress the ball a ton. Like we talked about LA Galaxy, they're playing very direct, kind of like us. I definitely see some similarities in how they play and how we play. They're also very reliant on crosses. They're top 10 in crosses and in corners. And whenever they do corners, they really only do in swingers. So when I say in swingers, there's in swingers and out swingers. And I guess there could be straight. But in swingers are when the person's taking it and swinging it at the goal face versus away from the goal. And so in swingers are where we always see Leuven just looking to catch the goalie and see if he can score an Olympico, right, on a corner kick. And he's hit the crossbar already and makes it very challenging. So in swingers are scary. So Berkey will need to be on top of his game to make sure he can keep those out. But defensively is where they really shine. This team has an expected goals against in the top 10 of the MLS at 1.36 per 90, but they're only conceding nearly half that. So 0.71 goals against per game, which is number 1 in the MLS. So if we're going to get goals in this game, it's going to come against the best actual productive defense in the league currently. They're about the same, or marginally better at home, but they really kind of come whenever against this team. They're not very leaky to any specific interval in the game, but mostly I would say in the first hour is when we're going to look to try to capitalize. That's when they're most vulnerable.
And I'm hoping that that's kind of the game plan for us. Is we know we're coming into a sticky situation, missing a couple of guys into a hot environment with against a really good team, and so maybe we can kind of just punch them in the mouth off the start, get a quick one in the first 20, and then we kind of take a breather and then try to own the game from there. So hopefully we can do that. They concede every 161 minutes away, so almost once every 2 games.
Yeah,
Jesus. 5 goals against at home, an average of 2.2 points per match at home as well. Only allowed 1 goal against in the first half at home, 4 in the second half. I still think we can do that. I'm not worried about stats. Third least in yellow cards, so they do smart defending as well. Not that surprising, except for, I was going to say for Walker Zimmerman, but then I immediately just flashed back Raven Simone to win in the, was it the World Cup when he just took that from behind?
Yeah.
So maybe not that smart.
Raven Simone, what a call. That's amazing. Okay.
65 shots on target, 7th least, and an 83% goal percentage save, which is number 1 in the MLS. So they are very good defensively. Number 2 in tackles in the attacking third as well. So I don't like reading through all those stats.
Yeah, because you read through the goalkeeping ones and the tackles one for me, and the tackles, we're number 1 in the tackles in the attacking third. They're number 2. We're number 2 in goalkeeping save percentage. They're number 1. So we have, they have a little bit of a high press. They love to take the ball away in the opponent third, and our goalkeepers have been sensational. Joe Willis has been incredible for them. So I love to see him showing out with the St. Louis in his blood.
But they don't have Parklet or
Barker. Yeah. They do not have
us.
Barker.
That's us.
Let's talk about Justin. We talked about, is it helpful to do the city stats? We really just kind of refresh them every week. And we'll still do it every once in a while. But what we did differently today was to try to break down, like, what is City's keys to the game? And I just broke it down offensively and defensively. So offensively, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I think for us, we obviously need to be very clinical with the minimal chances we're going to generate in this game or be given. We have the 5th best XG per 90 away. So I'm relatively optimistic that we'll be able to generate some chances away. We need to use counterattacks, spring forward when we win the ball. We need to be able to draw center backs like Mayer and Walker Zimmerman out of play. I guess Zimmerman not in this case. So whoever the new guy coming in, draw them out and create space underneath and in behind for wingers to run into. Joaquini's gonna have to play very, very strong in this game. They're so defensively strong, and he's gonna have to really try to hold his ground, create time and space for the wingers to be able to get us forward. And then finally, let Nashville have the ball at times. We know they don't have the most possession at home, but we don't want that possession as much either. We're somewhat comfortable with it, but at times just manage the game. Let a little bit of a lull come against a good team like this. You cannot be going balls to the wall the entire time.
No, and I think one of the things we need to think about offensively as well is going up against Walker Zimmerman. Like you said, I think Nico needs to play very strong. I think he needs to also be very shifty around him. I don't think Walker's the quickest guy on his feet. And we already said Shaq Moore is going to be the right back. So we're going to have to look at Jared Stroud or whoever's going to be playing on the left to really try to go at him, take him one-on-one, see what you can do. Try to cross these guys up because I do think they have a very strong defense, not just on the field, but physically as well. So other than that, limit mistakes. If we hop into defense, limit mistakes, 1.67 XGA away, which is the 10th worst in MLS for us. So that's something we really need to capitalize with. Barker. Positional awareness and recovery on counters. That is one thing, like you said, they are very strong with counters, and that's one thing where we can't get lost or caught up, or we need to end it in their half, take the foul, take the yellow, let a restart happen in their half. Then we also, defensive mids, need to limit Mukhtar as much as possible. It's going to be tough with Blum. We'll talk about lineups here in a second, but Leuven's probably going to be just following him around is what I would assume, just to make sure we already have him everywhere and do not lose him. Set piece defending, something that we always kind of not struggle with, but we need to do better on. Make sure, and you already mentioned about rebounds. We need to get up with Barker and Bartlett and Hebert and whoever else is going to be going. But and you can look, we don't have to worry about Walker Zimmerman coming in with the head balls if he's not going to be playing. So I apologize. I know I keep mentioning that.
It's hard.
Their main guy, but and then no late goals. 60% of our goals against have come from the 71st to the 90th. We need to shut these games down, and I don't know if it's a reformation or we just need to really focus in a little more there, but
unacceptable. And I would like to see us put a foot right in this game. But in terms of a lineup, Justin, this was an interesting challenge. And this is what I've put together, which is kind of a conglomerate of what I would do / what I think Carnell might do with just the tendencies we've seen recently. So the big change here is the same goalkeeper in Berkey, same back four as who started last game with Hebert, Parker, Bartlett, and Nerwinski. But I think the changes come in the midfield. I would still keep Jared Stroud and Rasmus Salm on the wings in terms of starters, because I did like how great Celio played. And I still think I want to see him come off the bench if we need to change something up, and Nico up top. But the midfield three is where I'm changing it, because you lose Blum. We don't have a straight up replacement for Blum at that quality. I think you look at Miggy probably as the most natural replacement, but here's what I'm thinking. In the beginning of the season, we played Leuven and Vasilev kind of in that spot when we didn't have Blum. And then we had someone spearheading it, or we played Leuven more advanced. I would start Leuven and Vasilev almost as like double sixes, and then Ostrak at the tip instead to play what Vasilev was doing. And then also when we can, or let's figure things out first. Let's make sure Mukhtar isn't just exploding on the scene. And let's see if Indy can kind of get forward and help support Ostrak. But I would go with Leuven and Vasilev in the middle, and then Ostrak in front of them, playing with the wingers and Joachini.
I like this a lot. I completely agree with you on the midfield triangle. And I think with Leuven, Indy, Parker, and Bartlett, we're really going to kind of make sure that Mukhtar is found everywhere. And then I would definitely like to see Celio come in. I would like to see it a little earlier than sometimes when we do. I would say by the 60th minute. It's going to be hot down there. What you have in here, that was a high of 90. But I think it's going to be a nighttime game. It'll cool off. It'll be in the 80s, but he'll have plenty of legs, dude. So I think we need to keep him in there. Let's kind of monitor Alm and Stroud if they're the starters, and make sure and see which one we want to take out there, because we also have Aziel Jackson as a spark plug as well. Yep. I think it's almost too much though to put both those guys in. I think I just want it's a one spark plug. Pick one, go from there, and then probably we can always look to have Miggy come in off the bench if we need to do a replacement with like Ostrak. Yeah,
change it if you have to. You know, so getting predictions, I was going to say it already, but unfortunately, I still think missing Blum is really, really going to hurt us in this game, because this is a game that he would be basically tied at the hip to Mukhtar on. And with his absence, I just lose a little bit of confidence in our defensive part of the midfield. And we were just gelling so well together. So unfortunately, my prediction here for us is a 2-1 defeat. And I think it will come late again, unfortunately. Nashville is a team that does score more in the latter part of games. And with us being the defense that we are in that point in the game, unless we righted the ship this week, I could see another late one, which would be very frustrating. But my bets are going to hedge that. So just a little bit of a foreshadowing there. What do you think here?
I've gone back and forth on this a couple times today. But I still think even with Mutar, our defense is strong, Berkey's strong. I'm going with an optimistic 1-1 tie. I think we go in early, we get a goal. I don't think they bounce back immediately. I think it is one of those ones later on when we're trying to just pretty much park the bus and we're going to give something up that how we typically have. But I think we're going to hopefully just come out of here with a point, which I think would be huge knowing the guys that we don't have. So
agreed. So Grahammer time, Justin. I've got for the City money line currently sitting at plus 370, Nashville at minus 165, and the draw at plus 95. It might have deviated a little bit since then. I got that like an hour or two ago, but we're obviously very much the underdogs in this fixture. The over 2.5s at minus 140, the under 2.5s at plus 110, and both teams to score at minus 145. All that considered, I wrote down a couple of things here, but I think I'm going to go with two things on the day. I'm going to go with City double chance, so either win or tie at plus 120, which is great value for that, including the tie. And then City to score in the second half, which I've played before, but I think that was during the Dallas game when it got canceled or postponed. So I think that's, if we're going to score, I think it's after we've given ourselves some time to figure them out. And I think it'll come in the second half. So that's at plus 105 for City to score in the second half.
I think that's fair. I didn't have a good chance to look at all of these today, but I think what I do want to definitely do the double chance. I think that's nice. But also, I think just a quick one, Jake, that I just made a quick same game parlay on. It's because I'm including other stuff. I was about to say, looking at when you already said they're the highest in corners, but if you do over 8.5 corners in the total game and over 1.5 total goals, minus 130. So I think I like that.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
So I'm going to play around with the corners a little bit. Stay tuned, guys. We've got a couple days to get this figured out, especially being Tuesday today, but I will definitely put some screenshots up.
Yeah, and the U.S. is looking like plus 120 money line in regular time, and Mexico's at plus 210. So it's plus money all the way around for this game. I'm obviously going to hammer the U.S. money line. This is the one that we got to come away with, and I think we're trending upwards. So to get plus money on the U.S. and on the boys in red, white, and blue, that's value right there.
I completely agree. And I will say team props for that. Us to score over 1.5 goals, the U.S. game is plus 140. I know we haven't been that good, but that's what I think I'm going to go with that. Do a little sprinkle on both. Give me the plus 120 and the plus 140. Maybe a little same game parlay with a Balogun goal too for like a plus 600.
Love it. Love it. Well, before we close out again, thank you so much to Luis and Soul Juice for sponsoring today's episode. Go out and get yours, guys. It's awesome. It's really good. Shoot us a picture, shoot us a selfie of you drinking your Soul Juice when you get that. And then you go to Deerbergs to buy it or use ball watching on souljuice.com to get 20% off at checkout. It is fantastic. And in the light of fantastic, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. We will catch you probably on Sunday at some point to talk about Nashville and recap what happens there. But looking forward to the best match of the week and us featuring in it. I think it's going to be a great one. Could be a memorable one. So we'll see.
All for City, all for Soul Juice.
All for City, all for Soul Juice.